Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name is Monica, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my wrap up for August. So I'm doing this a day early. It's August 30th when I'm filming this, but I'm reading a book that I know I'm not going to finish before August 31st just because I've got a lot that I've got to get done and I don't have a lot of reading time this weekend. So I'm just like, you know what, let's just get it done. So you'll be seeing this tomorrow. So, well, in a couple of hours because it is nighttime. It's like 7:30 at night. So let's get into the books. So in the month of August, I read 33 books. And I think it was actually a really solid reading month. I had 11 5 stars, 7 4.5 stars, 6 4 stars, 3 3.5 stars, and I did a bunch of rereading. I had 6 rereads. But for genre breakdown, I had 4 historical romances, 4 paranormal romances, 10 contemporary romances, 2 fantasy romances, romantasy, 11 romantic suspense books, 1 historical fiction, and 1 cozy mystery. So I think it was a pretty good mix of the books that I generally do listen to or read. But let's get into some of the 5 stars. So one of the 5 stars that I did listen to, it was for the historical Hellions. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. It was so good. It's called Deception by Amanda Quick. And this one is about Olympia. She's absent-minded. She's the guardian of her nephews. And then in comes Jared, who has an eye patch. He looks like a pirate. And he has a secret identity. And he becomes the boys' tutor. And it is their romance, and it is so good. She's looking for some treasure out of a map, for a map, and it has to do something with his family, but she doesn't know it's him until later on in the book because he's actually part of the aristocracy. It was so much fun. This book was jam-packed with action for a historical romance. I loved Jared. I loved Olympia. And I loved how they challenged each other. This book was just so good. I enjoyed every moment of this book and I gave it 5 stars. Now the audiobook wasn't the best, but that's okay. I could look past the audiobook and just love the book for what it was. It is so delightfully good. I loved the whole angstiness of it. 5 stars. And then I read two Elsie Silver books. The first one was Front Runner. Actually, I read 3. So the first one was Photo Finish. I gave 4.5 stars. There's, for me, for Photo Finish, the reason why it's not 5 stars is because there was too much back and forth from past to present, and it threw me. I couldn't connect as much as I wanted to, but that's okay. But Front Runner is Stefan and Myra. She is cold. She is grumpy. He is sunshine. He has a Romanian accent. He's rich. The first 2 books, he was kind of the villain because he owns a horse farm and where he's raising horses to be raced. And she is the vet and she's friends with all the girls at the Gold Rush Ranch. Well, they hate him and they need his filly. They have a baby horse that needs the mother's milk, but the mother died and he just has a filly, I think it was, if that's the name. I don't breed horses, but anyway, she lost her baby, and so Mira's like, well, let's have him bring the filly over and so the cult can be able to have the mother's milk. Well, he is like, no, there's going to be some conditions. 1, you have to bring him here, and 2, you have to go on 3 dates with me. And it ends up starting this fake dating. He has a sister who has the last book in the series. I love this. The amount of angst between those 2 is so good. There's a lot of stuff that they had to get through. His line was, "Thou shalt not lie." And yeah, listen, this book is so good. I very, very much, Stefan was so patient with Mara, or Mira, is that how you say her name? Anyway, she was so fierce. She was so protective over her people and over the animals. And I loved them both equally. And I loved the side characters as well. This one, absolutely 5 stars. And then I went right on to A False Start. And if you hear it storming outside, I'm sorry. I just want to get this filmed, but we are getting a storm. But this one, false start, is Nadia and Griffin. And Nadia this is age gap. I think it's like 15 years age gap. He's a former football star, and now he's a grumpy mountain man. He has a stutter because he has a traumatic brain injury. She is the younger sister of Stefan, and he's Stefan's only friend. So they start with a hookup in a bathroom. She's hooking up with a different guy who's a tool, and he comes in all nonchalant, does his thing, and then they kiss. And she can't stop thinking about that for 2 years. And then he helps her with the animals that she's trying to rescue. He buys her a horse that they rescue from being slaughtered. He calls her Wildflower. He's called her Wildflower since their first meeting in the bathroom. And there's this effort moment in the tent that was like where they first start their thing, and the amount of character growth in this book is so fantastic. They both challenged each other, but they both loved each other, and 5 stars. This, I think, is my favorite in the entire series. This one is my favorite in the entire series, but I still love Frontrunner. Frontrunner is so good. I think this one, everybody needs to be reading this series. This series is really good. And then I read Rally by Devney Perry. This is the latest book in the Treasure State Wildcats series. It's book 3. I had to think about that for a second and look it up because I have my computer down here. Anyway, back to Rally. So Rally is Faye in Rush's story. It was very angsty. This is a surprise baby book. Like, I've read 3 surprise baby books. I've read a few surprise baby books. I didn't realize I was reading all these surprise baby books in the month of August, but I did. And they all tended to be on the 5-star list, so who knew? Anyway, Faye needed control, and Rush needed Faye. Okay? The emotions bled from this book. It was so well written. They had a one-night stand. She works at Dolly's. She's trying to survive school. They meet at a campground when they're both trying to figure out where they're going to go next after their relationships failed. Jump to a few months later where they meet at a bar and they have one night stand. She gets pregnant and he moves her in with him because she becomes homeless. And his roommate and teammate and friend is a complete donkey. He's a complete jackass, okay? Again, donkey, jackass, whatever you're gonna call it. He is so mean to Faye because he has a story that's coming up, and I think it has to do him getting screwed over by a girl. And so he doesn't completely believe her, and so Rush kind of fumbles when he finds out that she's pregnant. But when they start in, it's so realistic because they have to get over the growing pains of living together. Like they're fighting, and then they come to an agreement, and then they start dating, and then they start falling in love. And it's just such a good book. Devney Perry knows how to write a good slow burn romance in under 400 pages. She does. And I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the character growth. And this was an emotional book. It was very emotional, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. And even if you don't like Surprise Baby, give this one a shot. And then I read Game Changer by Lana Ferguson. This is her hockey standalone. And yes, it is thundering out now. Anyways, I basically saying hockey star meets baker. She has a reality show. Her name's Delilah. His name is Ian. There's some stuff in his past that he is not proud of, but it's not. A lot of it is him covering for other people. And Delilah needs good PR because her baking show is not panning out, right? But he needs good PR because people think he is not a good guy, when in fact he's actually a very good guy. and his best friend is her older brother, and also his teammate. And I love her older brother. He's a hoot. He's kind of like the comic relief of the entire crew. I loved how Ian and Delilah were both very mature characters. They dealt with their stuff. She believed him and kept believing him, even when most people probably wouldn't. She did. And come to find out, she was right. And I love the romance. I love the character growth. This one is so, I really enjoyed this one, and I gave 5 stars. And the only Lana Ferguson I have not read yet is The Nanny, so I might have to pick that one up. And then we are doing a read along for the Adair series, and I found a 5-star in the Adair series, and is There With You. This is book 2 or 3. Let's look. It is book 2. This is book 2. I can even tell you who this is without looking down. This is Robin's little sister. Her name is Reagan, and we think that she is this immature, horrible character from book 1 because we're in Robin's point of view. This is also Thane. He is, I think, the older brother to Lachlan, who's in book 1. I gave book 1 4.5 stars. This one I gave 5 stars because this one, it's a nanny, single dad. He has 2 children, Lewis, and I can never pronounce her name, and so I'm not even going to try. But Reagan has always been very good with kids. There's some stuff that she did not tell her sister that had happened, and so she's not actually a flake. There's some hurt that happened, and her natural instinct is to run. But she's also being stalked by this guy, and her sister doesn't know this. So Robin and Thane, they are like fire together. He really wants her, she really wants him. It's obviously age gap, and she's like, people are going to be talking. He's like, people are going to be talking because the whole nanny thing, right? And she's like, I don't care. And I loved how they snuck around for a little bit until they were both really ready to be together. And he has I think my wife will probably die type of a mentality from the first one, because he feels all the Adair men feel like they are cursed with love and that they're going to lose their loved one early on. And he is a widower. His first wife did pass away. So he's gonna like, if I love her, she's gonna pass away too, right? So I love how he did fight it. He did fight it for a while. She's like, no, I really want you. And I just loved it. I loved her character. I loved his character. And I loved how she ended up becoming a mother to his children in such a way that was organic. It wasn't forced. The characters, both the child characters, were well developed. And speaking of really good child characters, I said Lewis because he gets a book of his own. This is book 5 in the Highland series, and it's called Northern Lights, and I also gave this 5 stars. And this one was also a surprise pregnancy and has a suspense plot, just like his dad's book had a suspense plot, okay? This one, he fell in love with Callie Ironside, and we see Callie's mom and her as a little girl in book 1, and Walker Ironside is her adoptive father. He adopted her. Anyway, so this one is Second Chance Surprise Baby, and one of the things that I really loved about this one is that he was gone for her. Like, Lewis was gone for her, and they did break up, but they broke up because they were 18 years old, and they broke up because she didn't give him an opportunity to be 18, and they both needed to grow up a little bit before they were together. So there was a 8-year stretch. She held him in contempt for 8 years. She dated a couple times, but he could never really date because for him, she was the one. She knew he was the one too. And then so when they got back together, and she's friends with his sister, they have a one-night stand, and it is hot, and he uses old condoms, and she gets pregnant. There's also a suspense plot that makes a lot of sense, and it has to do with a friend of hers who she dated when she was in Paris going to culinary school. And it wasn't just the suspense plot that was great, but it was also how they had to deal with their small town and the judgments of the small town, and how gossip happens, and how it affects her younger brother Henry, and how it affected her and Lewis. And it was just a really well done story. I actually did not mind the surprise pregnancy. I think they would have been together even if it wasn't for a pregnancy, because they still loved each other from when they were kids. They were always going to be together. He came back for her before he found out she was pregnant. It wasn't the pregnancy that got them together. It just sort of happened. So, and then for the KU royalty blog that I did, I read Queen of Misfortune by A.M.G. Williams. This one is book 2 in her Shadows of Redemption series. Yes, this one is Lucy and Donovan. We saw them from the first book, and they were both fired. Lucy was kidnapped by Donovan on Nico's orders, and because she was going to come and take her sister Elena away. This was started in like book 1 with Nico and Elena, because Elena wanted to save her sister from the mafia life. However, Elena loved Nico, and they were going to have their twins. Lucy is fire. She is such a strong heroine. She kicked her butt. She saved Donovan. There is a part where this whole caretaking scene, because he was shot, she saved his life and she nursed him back to health. And he's like, I know you love me. And she's like, go F yourself, right? I love their banter. Their banter was so well done. It wasn't really hate to love. Yeah, it was hate to love for her. And he's just like, you love me and you know you love me. And I just loved it. This book was such a fantastic read. This is an underrated romance series, okay? If you like mafia romance, I really think you're going to like this series. It's so good. There's 2 more books. I have yet to read them, and I need to. So I got 3 arcs in, and all of them were 5 stars, obviously, because they're in this story. And I think these are my top 3 books. Well, very close to top 3 books of this. But Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles is book 2 in Sparrow's Fall series. This one, she is on the run and he falls first. This is Shep and Thea, and he's so patient with her. She had something really bad happen to her, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. We're going to take this slowly. And he was trying to help her with some house maintenance because she had a leak under her sink, and she just did not want him in her house. She didn't even have a cell phone because she's so afraid because of what happened to her. He took care of her in a way that was endearing and not obnoxious. He went with her pace, and he fell in love with her, and she eventually fell in love with him. And Lolly's such a fun character in this book. She is the grandmother who loves pot and inappropriate diamond art, and I just love her to pieces. This book is so good. I enjoyed every minute of this book. The suspense plot was really well done, and I liked how the conflict ended, and and honestly, the villain in the story, there's a couple, but the one that truly was heartbreaking was the one that caused not all the drama in her past, but the drama in her present. And that's all I'm going to say. You need to read this book. 5 stars. Love this book. And I'm so excited for Coop and Sutton's story, which I think is next. And I just finished this morning. So I decided to put this on, and because it's on my September TBR. So I have 8 books instead of 9 books to read in September, because I was not going to not read this book as soon as it came into my book funnel. Okay. And it is Temptation Trails by Claire Kingsley. This is book 3 in her Haven Brothers series, and this one is Garrett and Harper. So Garrett is a single dad to 14-year-old Owen, right? And Harper Tilborn, she is new in town. She's a new baker. She's taken over for her aunt. And they were supposed to go on a blind date, Harper and Garrett. And he stands her up because he ends up having to do something for his job. And she's like, well, that's okay. because she thinks she has a string of bad luck because she broke a mirror over 6 years ago, because she is very superstitious. And I actually kind of feel like that was endearing. Owen was naughty at the beginning. He stole some cookies from her bakery, and so he had to go to work with her to make up for what he did, right? And he actually really liked that. Owen opened up to Harper. Harper was just a genuinely good, well-written female character. Love her. However, there's a cold case that Garrett started working on because he found some evidence and that pertained to the cold case, and all of a sudden this serial killer that they had 10 years ago, they didn't realize was a serial killer. He's trying to figure out who did this, and this was because Harper is now being targeted. But really, is she being targeted? This suspense plot was so well done. Claire Kingsley is getting better at suspense plots. So one of the things about this is that Garrett fell very, very hard and fast for Harper. It sort of worked for this world, because in this world, if you know, if they know they love their women, they know they love their women, right? I like that he was protective over her. He really, but not so much that it was overwhelming. I don't want to say too much, okay? But I can safely say there is a trope in here that not everybody's gonna like, but it didn't bother me because I tend to like that trope. And I read 2 of them already in this, so that's all I'm gonna say. And if you think about it and put the pieces together, you'll know, but I'm not gonna spoil that. It actually did not bother me, and it actually worked in its favor for this particular story and how it was written, right? I liked seeing all the brothers. I liked seeing their girls, the girls from before. I just really, really enjoyed this book. It was so well done. And I listened to the ALC, which was Jason Clark and Rose Dario. Jason Clark, if I ever write a book and it's a suspense book, I want him to narrate my serial killer, if I ever do that, because blown away. He did that with another reread that I read, because I reread Shadows by Kristen Proby. Here it is. For book 1 in the Bayou Magic series. I keep telling everybody to listen to it. It's on Hoopla, okay? This one, he narrates the serial killer in this book. And this is a magical story. And you would think that it's small town. No, it takes place in New Orleans, which is not small town. So you need to read this one. I absolutely highly recommend Temptation Trails. It was really well done. I loved it. I'm giving it 5 stars. And this one and book 1 are my favorites in the series. My favorite book that I read this month, and I've talked about a lot of kid characters, but I got the ALC for, was it the ALC? No, it wasn't the ALC. It was the ARC. I wish I had gotten the ALC, but I got the ARC. And I'm so glad I got the ARC. And it is Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. This is her latest book in the Magnolia Falls series, which is the 4th book. And he's also a single dad, small town, found family. You had found family in Delicate Escape. You had found family in Temptation Trails, and you have found family in Beating Heart. You see a pattern here, okay? I love found family. But this one, she is a doctor, and her name's Emerson, and Nash does not like her because he does not know who she is. He is Cutler's dad, and aka Beefcake. And when we keep talking about Beefcake, there's a reason for it. This is one of the best written kid characters I've ever read. He calls Emerson my sonny, and they're like, you're Beefcake's girl. She fell in love with Nash, and she fell in love with Beefcake. Beefcake is such a great character. He's the star, okay? But Nash is also a really well-written hero. He is so protective over his son. He does not want someone who's going to disrupt their lives or try to change the coolness of his son, right? And Emerson really fits into the world, and he fits into their little found family, right? I just love the bond that Emerson formed with Beefcake. I love the romance that developed between Nash and Emerson. This book was just everything to me. I loved every single moment of this book. My favorite for the longest time was Loving Romeo. Beating Heart dethroned Loving Romeo. This one is my favorite in the series. But anyway, that's my wrap up. And those are the 11 books that I gave 5 stars to. Let me know if you read any of them down below. And if you haven't, are you excited for them? Tell me all the things. I want to know all the things. And if you made it this far in this video and you want to let me know that you've been here, but you don't want to comment, please leave me an orange heart emoji, since we are about to hit September. And until next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.